Mercedes-AMG is certainly no stranger to building supercars. In fact, their current family of supercars, called the AMG GT, has been around since 2014 when it replaced the old SLS series. Now, because the AMG GT has been around for over 5 years, the company is giving the AMG GT family a significant refresh for 2020. You've got new styling, front and rear, a slightly tweaked interior, and for the first time ever, they're offering the hottest version of the AMG, the GTR, as a sexy drop-top roadster. In fact, Mercedes-AMG will only build about 750 of these beautiful drop-tops for the entire world. So the big question I want to answer, if you guys are in the market for a brand new sports car that isn't a Porsche 911, how does the new AMG GTR stack up? That's what we're here to find out. Hey guys, before we get started on the Mercedes-AMG review, I want to first give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, Vincero Watches. Now, I've had the privilege of working with Vincero for over 3 years now, and I've grown to really love a lot of their watches. As you guys know, they build these really amazing custom watches that look a lot more expensive than their price would suggest. Now, the one that they sent me this week is my new personal favorite because it is actually in the Redline colors. This is part of the Apex collection, and it's colored in this very nice matte black with a crimson ring. It's actually a red ring. This is actually the same Redline colors as you can see, so this is definitely going to become my new favorite watch. And like a lot of other Vincero products, the watch itself is coated with a crystal sapphire glass, so it's scratch resistant, it's also water resistant, and it just looks a lot more expensive than its price would suggest. Now, if you guys are looking to buy this watch or any other Vincero watch, they are having their biggest sale of the year right now that corresponds with Black Friday and Cyber Monday. If you go to the link in the description below, use the code word Redline sale. So go to www.vincerowatches.com/Redline sale. You'll be able to take advantage of up to 25% off your order. 25%, but you better hurry because this sale is going to end on December 2nd. So if you guys are looking to purchase one of these watches for a gift or for yourself as part of the holidays, be sure to go to vincerowatches.com/Redline sale, where you'll be able to take advantage of up to 25% off. But with all that said, let's get back to the video. Now, when you look at the styling of the GTR, you can see there are pretty slight changes between this and the regular GT. They also made changes to the entire GT family for 2020, so let me first start with that. Now, the first thing you're going to notice right away, the headlights have been tweaked. You have the standard full LED headlights with a new signature to the LED daytime running light. You also have LED turn signals, you have low beam LEDs and also high beam LEDs. This one here has the adaptive model headlights with the automatic on-off high beams, which again makes this thing look very premium. You also have the newer Pan America style grille for the front fascia. That was first introduced on the GTR a couple years ago. My particular tester here also has a $5,000 carbon fiber package, which includes genuine carbon fiber on the front, on the sides, on the rear. This is again a very unique model. It looks really much like a supercar. So if you're going to compare this to something like a Porsche 911, it's a lot lower, it's a lot wider. You can't even get a 911 with this long of a hood, of course, because this has a big V8 underneath here. Now, of course, being an AMG GTR, there are some slight tweaks to make this thing a better performing vehicle. It's actually about 2.2 inches wider versus the standard AMG, which makes this thing, again, one of the widest cars that I've ever driven. This thing barely fits into standard size garages width-wise. Its overall length is around 179 inches long, so it's a little bit longer than a Porsche 911, but it's still pretty compact in terms of its dimensions. I also really like the wheels that my tester has. These are actually, if you can believe it, the standard size wheels. And the GTR includes Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires. So we've got a serious track tire here to help put that power to the ground. You can see my tester also has these beautiful yellow painted calipers, which are 6-piston, although it's missing the carbon ceramic brake package for like another $9,000. I'd argue that you probably don't need to spend that unless you plan to actually track this vehicle a lot. You have a 19-inch wheel in the front, a 20-inch wheel in the back. They're staggered. So these are 275s in the front, 325s in the back. Remember, this is a rear-wheel drive car, so you need to have fat tires to help put that power to the ground. Now, all AMG GTs will have that V8 bi-turbo badge, and then again with the carbon fiber package along the side, along the rocker panel. This is a beautifully sexy looking car. In fact, it looks even better to me as the Roadster. It's more befitting of this car. I mean, sure, you can get the coupe model, but the coupe version just doesn't give you that same top-down open-air experience that you're going to get with the Roadster, although this one is going to be set up more for grand touring purposes, although AMG promises that the GTR will still have the rear-wheel steering that you get on the coupe model. This is going to be something that you are going to have fun on the track with the wind in your hair, of course. Now, looking at the rear, you can see I love this little wing back here, although I'm surprised it's not carbon fiber as well. It's just a black painted wing. And then, of course, there's a subtle little R badge that's also yellow painted to match the calipers. And then down here, you can see very aggressive-looking rear diffuser. The exhaust is actually centrally mounted. Other models of the GTR or the GT line will actually have outboard exhaust, but of course this is an AMG, so you probably want to hear what the V8 sounds like. So one correction really quickly, I said this car had a center exhaust. When you actually look closely, there are 4 exhaust tips. There's 2 on the outer edges of the GTR model. So Rob, fire this thing up, let's hear how it sounds. Wow. Oh yeah, that's sexy. Much better. And but you know what? It wasn't like deafeningly loud also. It was just like very, yes. But it sounds like this thing, you know what this thing reminds me of? It's like a German Dodge Viper. That's what it is. And obviously AMG makes some fantastic sounding engines. This one's no exception. It sounds even better when the roof is down. We'll talk about that later during the test drive. I also really like these taillights. They haven't really changed too much in the design. They're a full LED taillight design. This thing just seriously turns heads. For a car that's already 5 years old, I'm shocked at how modern and how just stylistically like impressive it looks, especially with the drop top version. Now, opening up the trunk, which I actually need the key fob to do because there is no release back here to open up the trunk, which doesn't surprise me. Most cars in this segment actually don't have that feature. When you open up the trunk, the Roadster offers around 6 cubic feet of space, which is actually not bad. The opening is a lot larger than I thought it would be, although the coupe is going to offer a lot more space because it doesn't have the convertible top taking up room. But of course, this is still a sports car, but it's also not desperately impractical. You probably still fit a carry-on bag or maybe even a set of golf clubs back there. So there's no denying how beautiful the AMG GTR Roadster is on the outside, but on the interior, Mercedes has also been kind of killing it over the years. Even though this model has been around for about 6 years now, it still looks nice, although the company did make some changes to the interior for 2020. As you can see, looking at my particular tester, it has that beautiful brilliant blue Magno color with the saddle brown leather interior. This is the upgraded Napa leather, which I believe actually comes standard. You can take your pick between like a black, red, or like a beige, grayish leather as well. These are the AMG Performance Recaro seats, which I have to say, the seats look fantastic. They adjust in like 16 different ways. They're heated and cooled. You have a 3-person memory on the driver's side, but as you can tell, they're pretty thinly padded, and they're very hard seats, and they hold you in place pretty aggressively. So try these seats out before you decide on this car, because the seats, for me, I find them to be a little too hard. The lumbar on this seat also just sticks out too far. No matter how hard I tried, the lumbar wouldn't go back far enough, so it feels like something is stabbing me in the back constantly. So it's going to take me some time to get used to that. As you can see here, there's a vent here for the neck warmer system. Mercedes calls that air scarf. They were one of the first manufacturers to kind of pioneer that technology. But let me shut the door and hear how the door sounds. It actually has a really solid sounding thunk, considering they chopped the roof off of this thing, and they're only building, like I said, only 750 of these units. Now, here's the key fob for the vehicle. It's the same, or it's the typical Mercedes key fob. It's an older key. It does have the AMG badge on it, so all you have to do, the button to start the engine over here is right there, and then put your foot on the brake. Man, this thing, I will never get tired of listening to an AMG Mercedes fire up. Now, I want to first put the roof down. There's a button here on the roof panel that allows the roof to open. I will say, the button does feel a little bit cheap. I don't like the way it feels. It feels kind of flimsy, and whenever you try to put the roof down, you actually have to put your foot on the brake. Once you do that, the roof is pretty quick. It's a power retractable soft top with 3 different layers of fabric, as you can see. Goes down in one pretty simple motion. The windows also go down. So I'd say that was probably like 12 seconds. It's a very, very quick roof. The drive mode selector is over here. This is a new steering wheel for 2020. Oh my God. Wow, you can hear that engine even more clearly with the top down. This is going to be insane. I can't wait to drive this thing. Anyways, let's talk about the rest of this cabin. Like I said before, this steering wheel is all new for 2020. I don't love all the piano black plastic trim on it. It just got fingerprints all over it. It has those touch sensitive buttons. As you can see, it's got the 12-inch digital display here with a new 10.3-inch display here. This is the command interface. This does not have the latest MBUX infotainment system, but they did add Android Auto and CarPlay, and as you can see, they made this slightly larger this year. The wheel itself is a power tilt telescoping wheel, although I will say it doesn't telescope far enough out for me. So again, try the driving position out for yourself before you buy this car. You can see there's all these different drive mode selectors. There's like a camera for that kind of looks over the front of this car, so you can see if it's going to scrape something. You can see there's your drive mode selector. There's several different modes between like a slippery, Sport Plus, Sport, Comfort, Individual, and race mode, which is, you know, very, very thorough. This car's personality changes completely when you guys have it in different modes, and you can see it's got these paddle shifters which are connected to the wheel. They're actually made of metal, which is nice. I see a lot of older Mercedes switchgear in here. The door panel, as you can see, is nice and leather stitched. The Burmester $5,000 upgraded high-end stereo sounds great if you guys get tired of listening to the exhaust. The window controls are one-touch automatic for both. They're definitely the older Mercedes switchgear. You can see there's genuine leather stitching all over the rest of this dash. This interior, you know, I saw this interior for like 3 years ago, and I have to say it still looks very modern, very high quality. I love the carbon fiber. The piano black plastic, though, I don't love because, again, it shows fingerprints all over it. There is a decent amount of storage in here. You can see there's your cup holders over there, your USB for your Android Auto, and CarPlay is over here. If you'd like, you can kind of close this up to cover up the cup holders if you want to kind of hide something there, which is nice. You have some dedicated buttons here for the heated and ventilated seats and the neck warmer system, which is really nice. You can drive this thing with the top down in cooler weather. Same thing for your passenger side over here. Decent storage in here as well. You can see pretty deep. For a sports car, a Roadster, Mercedes is throwing in a good amount of storage, so I love that. You can also see there's lots of other controls over here for your drive mode selector. So if you don't want to use the one on the wheel, you can kind of use it over here, although this is a little redundant. I don't think Mercedes needed to take up all this space here with additional controls. The one thing about this older command system is the fact that this is not a touchscreen. So if you try to touch it, it doesn't work that way. So you have to use the command wheel here, or you have to use the little touch sensitive pads where you can kind of customize that look. This is the super sport look for the gauges. They also offer a classic and a sport look. It does have that Android Auto and CarPlay, as I mentioned. So if you want to, you know, go to that, just hit the star button there, and you can go up here to the CarPlay, which the CarPlay, you can see, takes up the entire screen. It looks great. This is the new iOS 14, so I really like the way, you know, the integration looks in this car. It's great that Mercedes is giving us a really nice infotainment system, although I kind of wish that this was a touchscreen. It is reachable to touch as opposed to having to use this command wheel. What I don't love about this car is this shifter. The shifter itself is way too far back, so I kind of found myself looking for the shifter over here or over here. I think they should have just put the shifter over here. So instead, you've got to come all the way back, kind of like bend your arm back to go into reverse there. You can see when I go into reverse, there's a backup camera with parking sensors, which is very high resolution, although I wish it would take up the entire screen. Kick it back to go to drive, and then push the P button to go to park. You can see active exhaust there. This makes the flap at the front of the car expand or retract so it doesn't scrape whenever you're going over, you know, a steep bump or something like that. Your auto start stop is over there, and then you can see the volume knob, or the volume control, is actually this little toggle, which feels really high quality. I love the way the vents look in this car. It's all very nice, of course. The glove compartment, you can see, is a little on the small side. It's stamped and lined with felt. And then this car in general just feels extremely wide. That's the one thing about the AMG GT in general, is you sit very low. You've got these side mirrors that kind of cut right into my line of sight. I find myself kind of losing pedestrians in cars. So the visibility in this thing is not what I'd say the greatest, because as you can see, the rear is very high up. And when you look out the rearview mirror, you don't really see much, so you're going to depend a lot on the driver assistance, which my tester has the Distronic adaptive cruise control, automatic braking, blind spot monitoring, so I'd say it's a must if you're going to go for this car. But I love this color combination with the saddle brown and the Magno brilliant blue metallic exterior color. So one of the reasons why the AMG GT sports car is so sexy looking is the fact that you've got this very long hood and wide rear haunches. Remember, this is a front engine car, and it very much reminds me of like a modern day hot rod. So when you pop this massively long hood, this is what you're going to find underneath the hood of the GTR. Now, of course, before you start calling Nissan for, patent laws, this is Mercedes-AMG's answer to a Nissan GTR. It's a completely different beast. Instead of the 4-liter biturbo V8, we have a 4-liter biturbo V8 with slightly more boost, nearly 20 pounds of boost to make 577 horsepower. That's about 110 more than what you get in the standard AMG GT. They also have a GTC, which I actually tested about 3 years ago, that offers 550 horsepower. This one, of course, has the most. It also makes 516 pound-feet of torque. Now, if you guys are keeping score, AMG actually has a more powerful version of this engine in an E63 wagon that offers over 600 horsepower. So my guess is there's obviously going to be more power coming, and they actually just introduced that for 2021. There's an updated model that has over 700 horsepower. So that's not out yet. This is technically still the most powerful AMG GT that you can buy today, and it's known as the GT Space R. I know it's super confusing. Now, it all goes out through a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Mercedes basically takes the regular automatic, replaces the torque converter with multiple clutches. That's how they create the dual clutch. And these things are only rear-wheel drive. They do not offer the AMG series with all-wheel drive like some of the competitors do, of course, which does hurt the off-the-line performance. You'll get to 60 in this car in roughly 3.6 seconds. It's a tad slower versus the coupe because it's a little bit heavier. As this one sits, it also weighs a little over 3,700 pounds. And fuel economy, it's actually hit with a $1,000 gas guzzler tax, but it's still rated to get 15 in the city and 20 on the highway. So it has definitely been a few years since I drove an AMG GT. The last one that I reviewed for you guys was actually my very first AVA program in Portland, Oregon back in 2017. It was the GTC Roadster. At the time, that was the first time that the GTC came out. And the GTR is very much known as the green hell because it was one of the first vehicles that broke production records on the Nürburgring. Well, at least not one of the first, but it did break lap records for the Nürburgring, although it was beaten out again by, I can't remember which car it was, but the Roadster is designed to be, still giving you that hard edge that the GTR coupe is going to give you, but of course with the sun in your hair, or the wind in your hair, the sun in your face, like this is the whole reason why you buy a car like this. So I'm super happy that Mercedes-AMG sent me over the Roadster because this is, to me, the best way to experience an AMG GT. I mean, this car is one of the widest cars that I've ever driven. It sits so low, it feels incredibly wide. In fact, visibility in it absolutely sucks. It feels like an American car in here because I feel like I'm sitting super low, like I have to look over this massive hood. The side mirror is right in my line of sight. And this car isn't the easiest to drive if you're going to be constantly driving around, tight areas. It's not a bad car to drive once you get used to the proportions, but for a Roadster that has a Mercedes badge on it, it feels very much hard edge. Even right now, the car, I have it in comfort setting, and the suspension is very, very firm. Combine that with these really harsh seats, and you feel like you're driving a race car in a sense, even when it's in comfort mode. In comfort mode, it's a joke because the suspension dampers are definitely still on the very firm side. Now, of course, with the AMG product, it's got the different drive mode selectors. So in comfort mode, the engine will shut off, which is kind of weird to experience in a sports car, but kick it over into sport and it kind of wakes it up. And you can hear the baffle and the exhaust opens right up. And this thing just sounds a lot like a muscle car. It's really, really cool. Oh my God, that was definitely my first time flooring this thing. And I actually forgot for a second that this one is rear-wheel drive. I'm so used to driving AMG products with their 4MATIC plus all-wheel drive system, but the beauty about the GTR is it is 2.2 inches wider than the GTC that I last drove, and it's got these super sticky Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires, 325 with tires in the back, so it struggles to put the power down a smidge. But I'm super impressed with how it actually handled that, because it gets a little sideways, but it never actually left me feeling scared, which is what I typically expect with an AMG product. Now, this car does have launch control. Now, I'm going to try to give it a go. It is rear-wheel drive, so it's not going to put the power down as well as some of its 4MATIC Plus siblings. To engage, you just put it in race mode, floor the brake and the accelerator, and it'll rev up. Feel those shifts, holy crap! Oh my God! Oh, okay. 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds? Oh my God, I definitely believe it. Imagine if this thing had all-wheel drive. It would put the power down so much better. Woo-hoo-hoo! Oh my God. Oh, I miss driving this car so much. Porsche 911 what is what I'm saying when I'm driving this thing with the roof down. You just can't even get a V8 in a Porsche. But this is just incredible. In race mode, the car just has a completely different personality, yet you could still drive it on the road. It doesn't feel incredibly scary like I thought it would. The ride feels just as harsh as it does in comfort mode. And then with the roof down, you kind of feel the wind going through my hair, and you just kind of forget about the annoyances of this car with its stiff ride, the thinly padded seats. Oh my God, what an amazing machine. And this 7-speed, oh, listen to the burbles. You know, even though this car is not all-wheel drive, I'm not mad about that because it gives me that classic muscle car feel that Mercedes-AMG is very much known for, especially the noise. God, that noise. Oh. Oh, man. You know, it may only have 577 horsepower, only 577 horsepower, but, oh, the sound, the visceral feel, the noise it makes, it very much feels like I'm driving a modern-day hot rod when I drive this car. Combine that with the super long hood, the wide rear fenders. Wow, it's amazing to me that this car is pretty much due for a replacement. It still feels really new. God, listen to that. And it has such a stiff suspension, you can really feel it grips the road so well. Oh, yet the back will step out. It'll let you do that. But it kind of will step out in a way that feels not super scary. You can credit those tires again. Those tires do a great job of putting the power down. Oh, wow. I'm just in love. This is the pinnacle of AMG. And the fact that it's a Roadster makes it even better because you can hear that engine even more clearly. It's amazing. Oh. God, I can get into so much trouble with this damn car. Let's try the launch control one more time. Let's see if I can get it to actually get going. Oh. So a little bit of a chirp there, but it actually put the power down really well considering this is a front engine car. You really got to credit Michelin to those Cup 2s. They are amazing in the dry, absolutely terrible in the wet. Oh. What an insane car. Oh, I want this thing so bad. I've driven so many good sports cars this summer. Supercars, really. But I have to say, this one is one of my favorites. One of my absolute favorites. It's absolutely insane. Oh. Never get tired of listening to that engine. I'm not going to try the launch control this time. I'm just going to floor it and see how it feels. It gets a little bit jiggly, but it just puts the power down. Amazing. Oh. All right, so let me go back into its comfort setting here and just drive the car normally. I want to talk a little bit about the fuel economy. 1520 mpg on premium, of course, and it's hit with a $1,000 gas guzzler tax. In my week's worth of testing, it averaged 16 mpg, which is actually not too hateful. Remember, this is not the electrified V8 that I've drove in the GLE 63S, although the engine does shut off when I come to a stop here, which is really weird to experience. But overall, if you can get past the fact that this thing is so damn wide, the fact that it does ride a lot harsher, when you have it in comfort, when you have the roof up, I'm going to assume that it's going to get harsher feeling. Which, speaking of which, let's actually put the roof up. Which you can do at a stoplight here. You just have to have the car at a stop. You do have to make sure you take off your camera if it's suction cupped onto the window, because it actually shuts off the or it actually opens both of the windows, but you can see with the roof up, you've got 3 different layers of material in this thing. And I am noticing that it actually is relatively civilized in here. You can have a conversation with your passenger here. You don't have to raise your voice. There isn't too much in terms of wind buffeting. There is a lot of road noise that you hear, which you don't hear the road noise when the roof is down. And of course, you still hear that exhaust. Even I have it in quiet comfort mode right now. The exhaust is still ridiculously loud. And then when you put it into Sport Plus, so yes, the exhaust is never really quiet. It's always going to be loud, but remember they use 3 different layers of fabric in here, so it actually does insulate you pretty well. Because I imagine most owners are probably going to drive with the roof up anyways, but why would you want to do that? This car needs to be driven with the roof down. But wow, you have to admire Mercedes for continuing to build a car like this. It is very much, for me, one of the best alternatives to a Porsche 911. Sure, it's not as practical, it's not as fly under the radar as a 911, but it's way more unique. It has that V8 muscle car sound and feel. It feels very wide. It feels like basically the German version of a Dodge Viper, but way more refined and way more civilized. It's a really awesome car. So even though the AMG GT family has been around for the last 6 years, I must say this is one sports car that has aged extremely well. Even though it's practically due for a redesign, although the refresh this year is giving it some fresh styling, everywhere I took this thing, it turned so many heads, especially in the new Droptop GTR form. This is a car that seriously will question your want for a Porsche 911 because unlike the Porsche, you have this big honking V8, you have this very long hood, wide rear haunch area, and it's a car that looks far more exotic, far more expensive, and it's a lot more rare versus a Porsche 911. Now, I'd argue that the 911 is also a little bit more practical. It's got more space, it's got a back seat, it's got the frunk that's a little bit bigger than this, but you just, for any price, couldn't get any 911 with a V8, and the V8 is the defining character of this car. It's got an interior that also has been updated this year. Still not in love with the infotainment system. I wish Mercedes had added their MBUX system, but once you get past the thinly padded seats and the harsh ride, which you could probably mitigate that if you guys go for a lower end model, the GTR is one amazing supercar that will really go down in history as a car that is going to always turn heads. It's going to really age extremely well, and that's the beauty about this car, is the styling of the vehicle still looks good even though it's been on the market for the last 6 years. Now, speaking of which, if you guys are looking to buy one of these cars, what's it going to cost? Well, a regular GT, the coupe version's around $115,000. The convertible starts at just under $130,000. Now, here's the kicker about the GTR. The Roadster version, it's $27,000 more expensive than the comparable coupe. $27,000. Now that's a lot of money, but with only 750 of these being built for the world, it's going to be a very exclusive car, especially when you have it painted in this brilliant blue Magno color. It's a color that seriously pops. Just don't take it through the car wash. You have to hand wash this thing, which if you're gonna buy one of these, I imagine most of you wouldn't take it through an automatic car wash anyways, but really, my tester, once you factor in the carbon fiber package, the color, the driver assistance package, the Burmester sound system, this thing stickers for well over $210,000, just a smidge over $210,000, which makes this thing pretty expensive. You can get something like an Audi R8, high-end versions of a 911 Turbo, but I would argue that this car in general has the look and feel almost like of a Dodge Viper, but of course way more refined. It's very much like the German Dodge Viper, so it's unique, it's cool, it's different, it has a really nice sounding V8. So if you're in the market for a new sports car and you don't want a Porsche 911, be sure to also check one of these out. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2020 AMG GTR Roadster. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.